You know I touch a lot on the construction side of my background, which developed me as a human being, was being in the construction world. Welding was a big part of my life. When I turned probably 18, my dad made me the guy that actually built flatbeds for all our trucks. So there was a lot of welding going on. I took pride in my welding and I loved it. And throughout the time of my life, I created a lot of different projects. But once I got into the fabrication of building actually hot rods and rat rods and cars, it just, man, it was a rush. In 2008, when I built this car right here, 2008, when I built this car right here, it's haunted. The car's still haunted. There's something with it. But this car in 2008, when I started it, it was such a rush. I'd already built a couple other rat rods prior to this one, but this one here, there was something special about it, and the amount of fab that went into this car, and I guess the blood, sweat, and tears. You know, if you want to be a fabricator, you want to weld, you want to be one of these people that are going to come in here and spend endless hours of your life working on a project like this, you have to be dedicated and you have to sacrifice a lot. Whether it's your family, your finances, your life. I mean, you sacrifice so much to finish a project like this, and it's not for everybody. It's really kind of a tedious, hard work sometimes, and being able to get in there and get those little tiny pieces and little details, that's where I love to be. I like to be in that little spot where I'm, in my mind, I'm in the Industrial Revolution era in my brain while I'm building this thing, and the mechanics of how things were being built back in the turn of the century. And those are the things that I think were really, really cool, and that inspires me to want to be very technical about the detail that goes into these cars. So every one of them's got a different path. Every one of them's got a different idea. Every one of them's a different emotion. Every one of them's a different feeling. I think a lot of people ask me about my cars and like, how did you come up with this idea? Or how did you come up with that idea or whatever? Well, there's literally over 100 different ones at this point in my life. And I tell them it's no different than being, say, like Brad Pitt. When he has to go do a movie, he has to change himself for every movie that Brad Pitt's ever done. Or any of those great actors, when they do them, they have to change who they are to be able to create the project that they're doing. And that's kind of how it is with me. You know, you build the cancer car, for instance. I had to live cancer for a while. That was a horrible time, you know. Quit Your Bitchin'. When I developed Quit Your Bitchin', I was angry. I was mad. I was mad because of this car. Because I built this car in 2008 and it went viral. And when it went viral, everybody hated it. Everybody was mad. Oh, you put a diesel engine in Hot Rod Magazine, and you know, it caused so much controversy, and I was kicked out of car shows. I couldn't go to car shows and all these different things that really pissed me off. So I thought, okay, well, I'm gonna build a car you can't really bitch about. Quit Your Bitchin'. It's got a blown Hemi, 5-window coupe. Like, how can you go wrong with that car, right? It's cool, it's got personality, it's got attitude. When you look at the car, it looks like what I felt when I built it. I was angry, and the car looks angry. The clown car, when I built the Freak Show. I mean, the Freak Show car was like, God, I was just weird for like 2 or 3 weeks. And the whole reason why I built that car is I had a guy that was jealous and didn't really like me for what I was building, because he couldn't build, he didn't even know how to build nothing. He would buy other people's shit, put his name on it, and look like he was the builder. So he told me one day, he goes, all you do is build clown cars. So I thought, oh, you want a clown car? Well, shit. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I'm gonna build a freaking clown car. And that's how the Freak Show came out, which ultimately at the end of the day, probably was one of probably the funnest build I ever did. Like, I loved building that car because I just opened up and poured so much of the anger I had in me into the car, and that's why they turn out so good. It's really how you feel and the dedication you put into them. And there's so many more other than those. Those are just a couple that were built off either anger or sadness or happiness. And that's really kind of how you have to do it. You got to go into it like that. And when you do it, you got to get in there. You got to be comfortable. You got to be ready. You got to be dedicated. I mean, I've dedicated my life to 100 builds in my life, and it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you build them from the frame all the way up, from nothing to something, like literally I'm finding my parts in junkyards and laying around in sheds and finding shit in antique stores, and you see something and you just gotta have it. I get things, even to this day, matter of fact, this weekend I was at a car show, and I'm buying things that I don't even know what I'm gonna use them for yet, but I know they're so cool that I'm gonna get it and use it one day. It's a good living, it's good fun. You know, I love doing it. I'm glad that I've done this in my life. You know, now it's time to kind of like see what these other guys are doing now. I got so many guys that are building rat rods now. It's become such a huge thing. Like, there was absolutely no following for a diesel rat rod. Now there's literally thousands of them out there. Guys are swapping Cummins motors and everything. They're putting them in everything. And they're having fun, and that's what it's all about. This car was basically the forefather for a lot of that. And I'm proud to have that. So it's been good.